The envelope arrived on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, its official seal mocking their hopes. Harper tore it open, her hands trembling as she read the words aloud to Lillian. Application denied. The court has determined that the child would lack a necessary male role model in the household. The words hung in the air of their cozy Columbus, Ohio apartment like a sentence neither had expected. Harper, a 35-year-old corporate lawyer with sharp features and an even sharper mind, dropped the paper onto the kitchen table, her knuckles turning white. Lillian, 32, and an elementary school teacher with soft blonde waves framing her face, sank into the nearest chair, tears already spilling down her cheeks. 6 years together, 3 of them married, and 2 years of fostering younger kids had led them here to this moment of wanting to adopt 6-year-old Emma permanently from the system. They had prepared the nursery, painted it soft yellow, hung pictures of stars, and built a life they believed was ready. Now the state said it was not enough because there was no man in the house. Harper paced the living room, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice low but shaking with anger. "We have references from social workers, teachers, even the pediatrician, who said we are the most stable couple they have seen in years." Lillian wiped her eyes, but the hurt stayed etched on her face. "They do not care about that, Harp. They see 2 women and they see something broken. What if they are right? What if Emma needs a dad figure and we are just being selfish?" The question cut deeper than the denial letter. Harper stopped pacing and knelt in front of her wife, taking both hands. "We are not broken," she whispered. "We are a family." But even as she said it, doubt flickered in her own chest. Late that night, after Lillian had cried herself to sleep, Harper sat at the dining table, laptop open, scrolling through similar cases across the country. Her mind raced with legal precedent, statistics on same-sex parenting outcomes, and the growing number of states moving away from old biases. The system had failed them today, but maybe they could force it to change. By morning she had printed out pages of notes. "We fight this," she told Lillian over coffee. "We appeal. We go all the way if we have to." Lillian looked exhausted, but there was a spark of resolve in her eyes. "Okay, but we tell our families first." Harper nodded, though she already dreaded the conversation. Lillian's mother, Margaret, had never fully accepted their marriage, calling it a phase even after the wedding. Harper's own parents in rural Indiana were polite but distant, always steering talk away from grandkids. Still, they had to know. The drive to Lillian's childhood home in the suburbs was quiet except for the rain tapping the windshield. When they arrived, Margaret opened the door, her face tight with worry after the call earlier. Inside, Lillian's father sat in his recliner, arms crossed. "So you got denied," Margaret said, pouring tea with hands that shook slightly. "Because there is no father figure." Lillian nodded, sitting on the couch. "We are appealing, Mom. We want Emma. She belongs with us." Margaret set the teapot down hard. "Lillian, you cannot do this. Think about the child. Every little girl needs a man to show her how the world works. What are you teaching her? That love between women is enough?" Harper stepped forward, her lawyer instincts kicking in. "With respect, Margaret, studies show kids in loving same-sex homes thrive. Love is what matters." But Margaret shook her head, eyes filling with tears. "You are my daughter and I love you, but this is wrong. You are dragging that poor girl into your choices, and now you want to fight the law? It will ruin you both." Lillian's father grunted agreement. "The neighbors will talk. The church will talk." Harper felt the familiar sting of rejection, but she held Lillian's hand tighter. "We are not asking for permission. We are doing what is right for our family." The argument stretched for hours, voices rising then falling into painful silence. When they left, Lillian cried in the car the whole way home. Harper drove with one hand on the wheel, the other stroking her wife's arm, trying to push down her own rising fear. Was this the price? Losing pieces of the people who raised them? Back at the apartment, Harper opened a new document on her laptop, titling it Appeal Strategy. She researched lawyers who specialized in family rights, found one with a track record of challenging outdated policies. By the end of the week, they had an appointment. As they lay in bed that night, Lillian whispered into the dark, "What if we lose more than we gain, Harp?" Harper pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Then we will still have each other." But deep down, both women wondered if that would be enough when the world seemed determined to tear them apart. The next morning, Harper called the lawyer. The fight had officially begun. The lawyer's office smelled of fresh coffee and old books, a small firm downtown with windows overlooking the Scioto River. Sarah Klein, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, listened as Harper and Lillian laid out their story. The denial the family fight the dream of adopting Emma. Sarah leaned back in her chair tapping a pen. This is not just your case, she said. The male role model requirement is written into state code, but it is ripe for challenge. Courts are shifting. We can argue it violates equal protection. Harper felt a surge of hope for the first time since the letter. Lillian, however, twisted her wedding ring anxiety plain on her face. How long will it take? Sarah shrugged. Months, maybe a year if we go to the state level. Costs will add up, but we can seek pro bono support. They left with a plan. Research expert witnesses gather affidavits from psychologists who studied same-sex families. Over the next weeks, Harper threw herself into it after work, poring over studies late into the night. Lillian helped when she could, but her teaching days left her drained and the whispers at school had started. Parents pulling kids aside after pickup. Colleagues avoiding eye contact in the lounge. One afternoon Lillian came home early, her eyes red. Mrs. Thompson asked if I was still fit to teach the second grade, she said, collapsing onto the couch. Said the denial proved something unstable about us. Harper set aside her laptop, anger flaring. That is illegal discrimination. We can sue the school too. But Lillian shook her head. No, Harp. I just want Emma. The family pressure intensified. Margaret called daily, at first pleading, then demanding. You are embarrassing the family, Lillian. Your cousin saw the news about couples like you on TV. Stop this before it destroys us all. Harper overheard one call and stepped in. Margaret, this is our life. If you cannot support us, maybe we need space. The line went dead. Days later, Lillian's brother texted a link to a local conservative blog. Lesbian teachers push agenda on kids after adoption denial. The article named them used old photos. Lillian stared at her phone, hands shaking. How did they know? Harper felt ice in her veins. Someone close had talked. They drove to Margaret's house unannounced. The confrontation exploded in the living room. You leaked this, Lillian accused, voice breaking. Margaret stood tall, arms crossed. I did not. But your father mentioned it at church. People talk. Lillian stepped closer, tears streaming. You promised to keep it private. This is my life, Mom. Emma's life. Margaret's voice cracked for the first time. I am trying to save you from regret. Two women cannot raise a daughter, right? It is not natural. Harper watched Lillian crumble, the betrayal cutting deeper than any court ruling. She wrapped an arm around her wife and faced Margaret. We are done here. Do not call until you can accept us. Back home, Lillian cried for hours, Harper holding her through it all. That night, Harper lay awake staring at the ceiling. The cost was mounting, already family ties fraying, careers teetering. Was fighting worth it? Lillian turned to her in the dark. I am scared, Harp, but I cannot stop now. Harper kissed her softly. Neither can I. The next day they met Sarah again with fresh affidavits. The appeal was filed, officially challenging the state code. News vans appeared outside their building, the first of many. Harper stood at the window watching them, her resolve hardening. They had crossed the line into public battle. There was no turning back. Court filings hit the local papers the next week. Lesbian couple sues state over adoption bias. Harper read the headline at breakfast, her stomach twisting. Lillian pushed her oatmeal away untouched. This is going to get ugly. The first hearing was set for 2 months out, giving time to build their case. Harper took leave from her firm, citing family reasons. But partners whispered behind closed doors. One senior attorney pulled her aside. Think carefully, Harper. Clients like stability. This could hurt billables. She nodded politely, but inside anger burned. Lillian faced her own battles at school. The principal called her in. We support you, but parents are complaining. Maybe take some time off. Lillian refused. The kids need me. At home they practice testimonies, Harper playing devil's advocate. What if the judge asks about male role models? Lillian hesitated. We have uncles, mentors, coaches. But the doubt crept in during quiet moments. Harper found her crying in the nursery one evening, clutching a stuffed bear meant for Emma. What if we are wrong? Lillian whispered. What if she grows up missing something we cannot give? Harper knelt beside her. We give love, stability, to parents who chose her. That is more than many kids get. Yet Harper's own nights were sleepless, replaying childhood memories of her father teaching her to throw a ball, wondering if absence truly left scars. The betrayal deepened when Harper's brother called from Indiana. Heard about your lawsuit. Mom is devastated. Drop it, sis. You are tearing the family apart. Harper gripped the phone. This is not about you. It is about a little girl who needs us. He laughed bitterly. Needs two moms? Come on. The call ended in shouts. Lillian overheard and hugged Harper tight. We are losing them all. Public pressure mounted. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse for preliminary motions holding signs about traditional families. Harper and Lillian walked past heads high, but cameras flashed questions shouted. Do you really think children do not need fathers? Inside the courtroom, Sarah presented motions to expedite. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, listened impassively. Opposition counsel, a state attorney, argued the policy protected children. The hearing ended without ruling, but the tension lingered. That evening at home, Lillian collapsed on the bed exhausted. My mom texted again. Said if we win she will never speak to me. Harper lay beside her, tracing circles on her arm. We knew the price. But did we? The internal war raged. Harper questioned her drive. Was she fighting for Emma, or proving something to the world that had always doubted her? Lillian wrestled with guilt, imagining Emma one day, asking why Grandma never visited. Weeks blurred into strategy sessions, expert calls, and late-night arguments. One night, after a particularly brutal media hit calling them activists, not parents, Lillian turned to Harper. Maybe we should drop it. Adopt privately somewhere else. Harper sat up shocked. And let the law stand hurting other families? No, Lillian. We started this. We finish it. But as Lillian fell asleep, Harper stared at the ceiling, the weight of every choice pressing down. The first major court date loomed, and with it the real test of how much they were willing to lose. The betrayal came on a Wednesday morning. Harper opened her email to find a forwarded article from a national conservative site. Inside sources reveal lesbian couple hit unstable home life in adoption bid. Details were twisted, private arguments from years ago when they first fostered, leaked phone records of Lillian crying to her mother about doubts. Harper slammed her laptop shut, heart pounding. Who? Lillian walked in from the kitchen, face pale. It was my brother. He admitted it last night. Said he thought he was protecting future kids. The room spun. Harper pulled Lillian into a hug, but fury boiled beneath. We trusted him. Now the case is tainted. Sarah called within the hour. Damage control time. We counter with character witnesses. But the strain showed. That weekend Lillian barely spoke, pacing the apartment, refusing food. Harper tried to comfort her. This is not your fault. Lillian snapped back. It is my family, Harp. My blood doing this. Maybe they are right and I am blind. The argument escalated, voices echoing off walls. You always push, Harper yelled. I wanted to adopt quietly, but no, you had to fight the system. Lillian cried. I am fighting for us. The words hung heavy. They slept apart that night, the first time in years. Work suffered. Harper lost a major client who cited the publicity. Lillian received a formal warning at school. The media camped outside their building daily. One reporter shouted as they left for groceries. How do you sleep knowing you are forcing a child into an unnatural home? Harper kept walking, but the question echoed in her mind during sleepless hours. Was this the moral line? Challenging society at the expense of peace? In preparation for the full appeal hearing, Sarah arranged mock trials. Harper excelled dissecting statutes, but Lillian faltered under cross-examination, her voice breaking when asked about role models. After one session, Lillian broke down in the car. I keep seeing Emma's face. What if the judge is right? Harper gripped the wheel, knuckles white. Then we lose her, but we tried everything. The relationship cracked further. Small things became battles over dinner choices, over who forgot to call the lawyer. One evening Lillian packed a bag. I need space, Harp. Just for a night. Harper watched her leave, the door clicking shut like a gavel. Alone she sat on the nursery floor, surrounded by unopened boxes, and let tears fall. The price was not just family or jobs. It was them. The next morning Lillian returned, eyes swollen. I love you. We do this together. They held each other for hours, words of apology flowing. But the scars remained. Court date arrived. The courtroom packed with media, allies, and opponents. Harper and Lillian sat side by side, hands linked, as Sarah opened. This policy is outdated, prejudice disguised as protection. Witnesses testified, psychologists citing studies happy healthy kids in same-sex homes. Opposition brought forward a sociologist claiming traditional structures superior. Tension peaked during Lillian's testimony. Do you believe a child needs a father? The state attorney asked. Lillian paused, voice steady for the first time. A child needs love. We provide that and more. Harper watched, pride mixing with fear. The hearing stretched hours, ending in recess. Outside, protesters clashed with supporters, signs waving. Back home they collapsed, exhausted but closer. The final arguments loomed, and with them the possibility of victory or total loss. Harper whispered in the dark. Whatever happens, we built something real. Lillian nodded against her shoulder. But the doubt lingered in both their hearts. Judgment Day arrived under gray Ohio skies. The state Supreme Court chamber felt smaller than expected, marble walls echoing every footstep. Harper and Lillian sat in the front row, Sarah beside them, files stacked high. The Chief Justice called the room to order. Arguments began, Sarah masterful, laying out constitutional violations, citing evolving standards of family. The state countered, emphasizing child welfare and legislative intent. Harper gripped Lillian's hand, sweat slick between palms. When the time came for questions, justices probed deep. One asked Harper directly, Ms. Thompson, do you concede that male role models provide unique benefits? Harper stood tall, voice clear. Benefits, yes. Requirements, no. Love and stability transcend gender. Lillian testified again, stronger now, recounting their fostering years, the bonds formed, the laughter in their home. The opposition pressed on moral grounds, but Sarah objected successfully. Hours passed, tension thick enough to choke. Outside, crowds had grown, national networks broadcasting live. Harper glanced at her phone, messages from distant friends, support mixed with silence from family. Lillian's mother had not called in weeks. The final gavel adjourned for deliberation. They waited in a side room, Sarah pacing, Harper and Lillian huddled together. What if we lose? Lillian whispered. Harper kissed her temple. Then we try federal or another state. But we never stop fighting for her. Minutes stretched to hours. When the clerk summoned them back, hearts hammered. The justices filed in, faces unreadable. In a landmark ruling, the court found the male role model provision unconstitutional, violating equal protection under the state constitution. The policy was struck down, effective immediately, impacting all adoption proceedings statewide. Cheers erupted from their side of the room, but Harper barely heard them. Lillian buried her face in her shoulder, sobbing with relief. Outside, cameras swarmed. You did it, one reporter shouted. Harper managed a nod, pulling Lillian through the crowd. Victory tasted bittersweet. Back home they opened champagne, but the celebration felt hollow. Calls came from news outlets, offers of interviews. Harper declined most. That night they lay awake processing. We changed the law, Lillian said softly. Harper nodded but added, at what cost? News spread nationally, headlines praising progress, others decrying judicial overreach. Lillian's mother finally called, voice stiff. I saw the ruling. Congrats, I guess. But we cannot pretend this is okay. The line went dead. Harper lost her job, the firm citing restructuring, but both knew the truth. Lillian took unpaid leave as school board reviewed complaints. The personal price mounted, friends distanced themselves, old neighbors avoided eye contact. Yet the adoption agency called days later. With the ruling cleared, Emma could be placed with them pending final home study. Hope flickered again. They prepared the nursery once more, painting over doubts with fresh coats of yellow. The internal conflicts did not vanish. Harper journaled late nights, questioning if their fight had been ego or justice. Lillian volunteered at a local family center, speaking to other couples, but nightmares of losing Emma lingered. The victory brought change, but also isolation. They leaned on each other harder than ever, conversations turning to the future, what they would tell Emma one day about the battle waged for her. The system had bent, but the scars remained deep. Months later the sun filtered through the park trees, casting golden patterns on the grass. Harper pushed the swing gently, 6-year-old Emma giggling as she soared higher, her dark curls bouncing. Lillian sat on the bench nearby, camera ready, capturing every moment. Their daughter. Finally theirs. The home study had passed quickly after the ruling, social workers now bound by new guidelines. Emma had come home on a crisp fall day, eyes wide with wonder at her new room. Nights were filled with stories, bedtime songs, and the quiet magic of family. Yet as Harper watched her wife and daughter, the weight of everything they had endured pressed in. Family ties remained severed. Margaret sent a single card on Emma's birthday, no return address. Harper's parents had not met their granddaughter. Careers shifted. Harper now consulting from home, Lillian back at school but with fewer hours. Friends who once celebrated now faded away, uncomfortable with the spotlight. Emma asked once about grandparents. Harper answered carefully. Some people need time to understand our family, sweetie. Inside she wondered if time would ever heal the rifts. Lillian joined them at the swing set, wrapping an arm around Harper's waist. Look at her, she murmured. Worth every tear. Harper smiled, kissing her softly, a tender moment of pure connection, the kind that had carried them through courtrooms, protests, and sleepless nights. Emma jumped off the swing, running to hug them both. Love you, mommies. The word warmed them like sunlight. Walking home hand in hand with Emma between them, Harper reflected on the journey. The appeal had not only secured their daughter but rewritten rules for countless others. Same-sex couples across Ohio now face fewer barriers. Yet the personal toll haunted quiet moments. Betrayals from blood, family, moral questions that still surfaced in arguments, the exhaustion that lingered in their bones. Had they inflicted unnecessary pain on others to claim their happiness? Back at the house, Emma played with her toys while Harper and Lillian cooked dinner side by side. Laughter filled the kitchen, the kind that comes after surviving a storm. But as night fell and Emma slept peacefully, Harper sat on the porch, Lillian beside her. Do you ever regret fighting so hard? She asked. Lillian shook her head. No. But I regret what it cost the people we loved. Harper nodded, staring into the dark. Their victory proved love could redefine family. Yet it also exposed how deeply beliefs divided people. The question lingered unspoken between them, even in moments of joy. As they watched fireflies dance in the yard, Harper turned to Lillian. Whatever the answer, we are here now. Together. The story of their battle would be told one day to Emma, not as a fairy tale, but as a hard-won truth about courage, choice, and consequence. In the end, they had paid dearly, but they had also gained everything. Did Harper and Lillian's victory prove that love and determination define a family? Or did the battle reveal the devastating price of challenging, deeply held beliefs?